Hello, I'm Beverly Weaver, and welcome to Denver 808. This is the second in a four-part series of programs designed to educate and inform you about the many programs, processes, and people involved in creating one of Denver's biggest events ever, the 2008 Democratic National Convention. This is a cooperative effort of the Denver Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau, Denver's 2008 Host Committee, the City of Denver, and Denver 8 TV. An incredible amount of work has gone into planning the August event. And on many levels, the convention promises to be a terrific opportunity for Denver and for you. On this edition of Denver 808, we'll take a look at how Denver won the bid for the convention, the planning that's gone on since that time, and the economic opportunity it promises for Denver, for Colorado, and for the entire western region. This program will also include a visit from Denver Mayor John Hickenlooper. First up, how it all began. In a scenario that could bear similarities to the little engine that could, Denver stood toe-to-toe with New York City in a contest to secure hosting the 2008 Democratic National Convention. And the Big Apple blinked, or more accurately, the Democratic National Committee winked Denver's way. The party's decision to hold their convention in Denver capped months of debate about which city had better logistics and a more compelling backdrop to frame the party's message. The Democratic Party's road to Denver in 2008 began when Councilwoman Elbra Wedgeworth dropped an almost serious suggestion to Howard Dean, the party chairman, in 2005. In late winter of 2006, Denver's host committee is formed. And in the summer of 2006, Denver enters the race to host the Dems with Minneapolis and New York City as its rivals. In late September, the Republican Party chooses Minneapolis for their convention in 2008. Now it's down to Denver and New York City. Election Day in November yields big gains for Colorado and Western Democrats, and the party takes notice. Some fear that the holiday blizzards that shut down the city and the airport may put the freeze on the decision. But a new year brings the big news. The city now has the chance to showcase firsthand the modern, culturally diverse, and vibrant city it has become. Denver will, once and for all, establish its rightful place as a major metropolitan American city. Joining us now in the studio for this first segment is Elbra Wedgeworth, President and Chair of the 2008 Denver Host Committee. Welcome to you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's get started really with the question that I'm sure you've heard from hundreds of people. Did you really think Denver could get this bid?
Absolutely. I really felt that it was the right time and it was our turn after 100 years since the last political convention in the Rocky Mountain West. And I knew we had the infrastructure, we can have a great bid, and more importantly, we have the people. So
to pull it off,
to pull it off. Yeah.
How did the community respond, Elbra, to the idea of holding the convention here in Denver? Because I've heard both sides. The people who go, I'm getting out of town, I don't want to be here for it, to the people who say, I want to go down and see the spectacle of it all.
I think for the most part, people are really excited because I think they understand how important this political process is. We've also have accomplished major events like World Youth Day, Summit of the Eight. We have major sporting events, all the time. And so this event is going to be very manageable, and I think it's going to be historic, and people are going to really remember this for years to come.
Right. And now people are starting to realize the amount of work that has gone into the preparation for this. But how difficult was it in those early days to really focus on getting this bid for the Democratic National Convention? Because, as we said, it was Denver and New York City vying for that. Obviously, Denver came out on top.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that this was a strictly volunteer effort, that many people donated hundreds and hundreds of hours of their time to put together the bid process, going through this whole process to get the bid, and that a lot of work was involved in it. We raised money privately, no money came from the city. So I think once people really realized how engaged we were and how excited we were, that caught on not only locally, statewide, but nationally. And many people supported our efforts, and we were successful.
Right, right. Yeah. A tremendous job by yourself personally and a lot of other people. What benefit do you see coming out of this for Denver in terms of, one, recognition, but also just a long-term, potentially economic impact? What do you see as the main benefit?
Well, the estimated economic benefit is between $150 to $200 million. I feel with the exposure that Denver will have, both nationally and internationally, with the 15,000 plus media people that will be in town, it is, you just can't put a price tag on that. But also because it's the first time that a person of color or a woman would be nominated as president in our country to the highest office in the land, and that sends chills through me. I mean, I never thought I would live to see that. And for them to be in Denver, I think is something that will be always remember, and we'll be on the map for that.
We will, and definitely just looking down the road, obviously a lot of work to be done between now and that final week in August, but any thoughts just in your perspective? Are you going to look back? What's going to be your thought once this is all over?
My thought will be it will be a very successful convention, a safe convention. People will really appreciate why we have this important political process and understand why this is important to America to have this process, and that Rocky Mountain West is key. It's the pathway to the presidency, and we're going to prove that.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to a lot of activity. Obviously, you still have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, but it's one foot in front of another, and we're looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Elbra, for being with us. When we come back, we'll take a look at what kind of planning has gone on since the bid was won. Please stay with us.
On the morning of January 10th, 1907, a group of applauding onlookers gathered at the corner of 14th and Curtis Streets as Mayor Robert Speer and Governor Henry Bucktel ceremoniously shoveled dirt on a vacant lot. The Denver Post called the groundbreaking the official birthday of Greater Denver. Laborers with horses were soon excavating foundations for Denver's new civic auditorium. From the outset, the city hoped to attract a national political convention to inaugurate the hall and approached both parties for the 1908 bid. Following a rebuff by the Republicans, they aggressively pursued the Democrats, promising a free hall complete with decorations, lights, and cash to cover costs. The climate in the mountains would make both work and play more productive and enjoyable. Delegates would enter the city through a grand welcome arch 65 feet high, illuminated by over 1,000 light bulbs. The venue itself would be magnificent, Denver's brand new 12,000-seat auditorium, second only in size to New York's Madison Square Garden. In the second round of voting in Washington, Denver was victorious over Louisville, Kentucky. The Democratic National Convention would open on July 8, 1908, christening the new Civic Auditorium.
We're back on Denver 808 with a behind-the-scenes look at the planning of the convention. The August event will bring unprecedented media attention to the city of Denver. So how do we put on the best event possible and put Denver's best foot forward at the same time? From logistics and transportation to construction and preparation for the media, it is a major undertaking. Joining us to talk about the planning are Catherine Archuleta, Senior Advisor on Policy and Initiatives to Mayor John Hickenlooper, and Richard Scharf, President and CEO of the Denver Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Let's begin with you, Catherine. Huge job here, really just unprecedented in what you have to plan for. Where do you even get started on a project of this magnitude?
Well, the first thing that we did was really design the values of our convention, and there were four very quickly: inclusiveness, making this the greenest convention possible, displaying democracy in action and celebrating that, and finally, to make sure that it was a wow event, that when the delegates left, they left with an incredible impression of Denver and its citizens. That was the first step, and then work to bring in nearly 350 volunteers in the planning process.
Wow. Fantastic to get the involvement that you have, the participation, but if you can see where it can kind of build from that value list that you had there. Richard, how does this really compare in size to things that Denver has seen come through in previous conventions?
Well, it's definitely one of our largest conventions from a hotel room standpoint. The DNC is taking up about 17,000 hotel rooms a night, so it's a big convention. 35 to 50,000 people is definitely one of our largest. I think the Pope's World Youth Day in 1993 had about 85,000 out-of-town visitors. So that might rank as our largest, but this as a convention is definitely our largest convention. So,
are we big enough to hold all those people?
You know, that's a question that keeps getting asked. In Boston in 2004, they had 35,000 Metro hotel rooms. Denver has 42,000 Metro hotel rooms. So we definitely have enough hotel rooms to handle this. And again, the DNC has asked us for 17,000, and that's what they'll assign to their delegates and their VIPs and the media.
Yeah, and we keep hearing the number, 160 million, the economic impact of the convention on Denver. How's that figure determined? Where is that money going to go? I would imagine a lot of local businesses are going to benefit from that dollar amount.
You bet. In 2004, after the DNC convention in Boston, they put together an economic impact study, and they came up with $160 million of direct and indirect impact. We took a look at that. We thought that was very comparable to what we would see, and we also applied some of our traditional convention matrix and realized that that number is pretty right on. We are hosting this over a down period for our hotel industry, so it makes it even more important of a convention with the economic impact. And I think what you're going to see is you have 35,000 people spending money that they made in other cities here in our city on transportation, on retail, on restaurants, and hotel rooms. So you're going to see it throughout the city. You're going to see a lot of spending going on.
Catherine, in terms of jobs that this is maybe not creating, but certainly promoting and helping, what kind of jobs are supported by conventions? Maybe that's a better question for you, Richard. And how's the Democratic National Convention going to create new jobs for people? Are there new jobs out there?
Maybe you want to talk about the jobs?
Yeah, I think, you know, this is a big industry. Conventions and tourism is a large industry for Denver anyway. It's probably one of the top industries, you know, and employs people in hotels and transportation, retail, restaurants. So there's a lot of jobs, I think over 65,000 anyway, and I think because of this convention, we're going to create some new jobs for a couple months as this is coming in. I think because of the security and the media, there's going to be different types of jobs, technical jobs that'll be taking place and that we'll create while the convention's in. But I would think that more of the jobs will be created afterwards if this is done right, because I think we're going to have more people want to visit here, and I think we're going to have a lot of companies that are going to be exposed to Denver that normally would not have seen how great this city is, and I think they're going to want to come back and do business with us, and that's where I see a majority of the jobs down the road.
Long term.
Long term.
I think some of the visitors here certainly are going to want to come back. So whether they come back as visitors or as residents, the impact for us is long term. This is how we bring people back to our city and our state. The Convention and Visitors Bureau does a fabulous job of not only presenting our city, but also encouraging people to come back.
Right.
And we have the perfect weather and the perfect city for folks to come back to.
I think you are very right on that. Now, we've talked about the planning that goes into all this, 1,500 events and receptions and parties, and I keep hearing occasionally here and there in the news that so-and-so place has been booked by so-and-so party or so-and-so candidate. Who decides where all that's going to be held, and how does that get organized, Catherine?
Well, 1,500 events are about what averaged in Boston as well. The host committee is responsible for only about 50 of those parties. So that means that those 1,400 parties are now being planned by private individuals. So they're working with the Convention and Visitors Bureau to find the venues. They're working with the caterers through our website and through our minority vendors program, and that's online. And so they're working at it with each of the party planners and the, and the restaurateurs, the hoteliers. All of those are really helping those folks from a long distance to plan the perfect party.
Right, and that's got to be an exciting piece of it, because there's going to be a whole lot of after hours going on, not just the convention itself. Richard, in terms of the, we talk about the spotlight being on Denver, and it sounds trite, but really there is going to be a huge media focus that really is also unprecedented. How do you plan for the media piece of it?
Well, I think that is the biggest attribute of hosting the convention is the media. We're expecting upwards to 17,000 international journalists in our city. And again, I think they picked Denver for a reason, so they're going to be showcasing a lot of what's happening in our region, in our state, in the Rocky Mountain region as well. We hosted last November 450 journalists. We have another 600 that are coming in June. This is very front-loaded for us. We've been placing stories with a lot of the big publications for about the last 18 months. We've been in National Geographic, Town and Country. So we're getting some unprecedented media coverage on Denver, and it's all been great coverage. And we're going to do our part when they're here, and we're going to make sure that they get our press kits and our photos so that it makes it easier to talk about Denver and tell all the great things that are going on. And working with the city, we're going to tell that story of economic development, all the things of how easy it is to do business here, and also why you should come back as a tourist.
Right, and have you learned to speak Japanese yet? No, just kidding. Catherine, let's talk about the convention impact on Denver residents, because we are going to have to get around the city while all these folks are visiting. So what's the impact there? What do you think is key for them to keep in mind?
Well, I think that as a convention city, we're used to traveling about the city when there are lots of convention, when there's a World Series, where there's a big Bronco game, where there are other conventions, whether it's the Pope's Visit or the Summit of the Eight. We're used to that, and I think we just have to pay attention. We have to use common sense. The city is open for business, and I think that we're going to be a very welcoming city during the convention.
All right. We are out of time, but thank you both so much for being here. Thanks to Catherine Archuleta and Richard Scharf. Up next, we will talk to Mayor John Hickenlooper and Denise Mayes of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce about the economic opportunity that the convention will bring to this area. Stay with us.
July 4th, 1908 was a day of celebration and promise in Denver. The new Civic Auditorium was dedicated by Mayor Spear as the first guests arrived for the following week's Democratic National Convention. Denver could now show the nation that it had arrived as a modern, exciting, and influential city. Banners, flags, and bunting hung everywhere, and 20,000 residents wore buttons saying, "I'm from Denver, ask me." Visitors were entertained with marching bands, summer snowball fights, and American Indians. Street cleaning crews worked through the night, while bars and bordellos thrived, and electric lights sparkled from Union Station to Broadway. Local papers touted all things Colorado, even warning of the effects of consuming alcohol at high altitudes. When the convention convened, overflow crowds lined the walls, even though the nominee was already selected. William Jennings Bryan would begin his third and final losing campaign for the presidency at the Denver podium. The auditorium was open for business, and boosters wasted no time promoting Denver as the cleanest, best lighted, best policed, and most ably managed city in America.
We're back on Denver 808. Joining us now are Denver Mayor John Hickenlooper and Denise Mayes, the chairwoman of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to both of you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit, first of all, Mayor, about the benefits. Obviously, numerous benefits coming with this convention that's coming to Denver in August. What comes to your mind first in terms of what the city will benefit?
Well, there's the economic benefit, you know, $150 million to $200 million, but I think first and foremost is that bright light. I mean, we're going to have somewhere north of 16 or 18,000 journalists from all over the world, and they're going to be showing a bright light of celebrity on our city. And, you know, we've accomplished a lot, probably as much as any city in the country over the last 10 or 15 years, between fast tracks and our new wing of the Denver Art Museum, our other cultural investments, you know, the things we've been doing around economic development. Our downtown is a national model. To have the world see that is going to, well, it's first going to attract more conventions, but it's also, I think, going to attract businesses wanting to expand an existing office or maybe even open a new office.
Denise, let's talk about how the convention will benefit the small businesses in the area, because obviously there's going to be money that's being really kind of thrown around to a lot of the businesses that are located in that general area.
Right, we're certainly hoping for that. I actually think there's a variety of ways that small businesses can really capitalize on this convention, and I certainly encourage the small businesses to seek every opportunity. The few that come to mind right off is, first of all, the convention committee has been fabulous, and it has prepared a vendor directory that's actually accessible online. And that vendor directory is intended to highlight all the businesses in Denver, Colorado area that can do services for, at, and during the convention. And the beauty of that online directory is, number one, it is available online, so anyone can access it. But more importantly, small businesses can also register for that directory online. So it's really easy, really accessible. The second unique thing about it, which is really very a good thing that the convention committee does, is it does highlight to some extent the small business enterprises, the women-owned, minority-owned businesses. So that's a real fabulous opportunity for business development for the small business, and I really encourage every small business to take advantage of that. The second thing that's out there, I think, is the convention committee itself. It has issued and will continue to issue RFPs seeking services for the convention itself, and the types of services it's seeking are really in the nature of the kinds of services small businesses can perform. There is event planning, there's catering, document production. So there's all sorts of services that the convention committee itself will be seeking. And of course, like I say, and I want to reiterate, there's a lot of those services that small businesses can perform. And the last thing I would just highlight is precisely what you said. I mean, there's going to be, tens of thousands of people right here in Denver in that area. And we have a lot of small businesses on the 16th Street Mall, and we have a lot of small businesses in the outlying areas around the Denver downtown area, near and around the Pepsi Center where the convention will take place. So there are many, many opportunities, and we're pretty excited about it.
I would imagine some of those vendors have already gotten contacted from people who want to use their services in preparation
Absolutely, when they actually arrive here, and they'll have all those services outlined, and we have some small businesses that can do it all for them.
Right. Speaking about Denver really talking about the convention in terms of showcasing the New West, and I've even heard clips on the news recently about how this region is really going to get a new look, the New West. A lot of the western states are swing states, and the new energy, the new opportunities here. Talk about what is really meant by New West in your eyes.
I think from my perspective, the New West is the entrepreneurial spirit, the diversity, the climate, just the fact that Denver itself is really the hub of the West, I think, and there'll be a lot of, as the mayor was saying earlier, just a huge spotlight on Denver, and talking about a lot of the development that has happened just in the downtown area near where the convention will be. I think there will be a lot of opportunities to showcase Denver as part of that New West.
Right.
It'll also show off that Denver is the capital of the whole Rocky Mountain West, and this is an area, it's really kind of part of the mythology of America, right? It's a place where it doesn't matter who your parents were, who your grandparents were, it matters who you are and how hard you'll work, and anybody can achieve their dreams if they're willing to work hard enough. And I think that, to put Denver at the kind of center of that, of all that means to America and the world, the American West, and as you said, this new energy, new opportunities. I mean, that's a once in a century opportunity.
Right, to have Denver's name associated with that image is very cool. Talking about the media attention, obviously, that will be converging on Denver. We're going to have journalists from all over the globe here. And it really could have a far-reaching impact in terms of the impression that the rest of the world has about Denver. Mayor, speaking in terms of the media coverage, what do you hope to see come out of that in terms of Mayor's image, or Denver's image?
Well, I think that I hope what comes out is the truth of what Denver really is, and a place where we're full of innovation and new ideas. We're not afraid to take some risk. But more than that, it's a place where we're not so partisan. And after the elections, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you come together and you solve problems. So whether it's mobility, I mean, Fast Track's being the most ambitious transit initiative in the history of this country, whether you're talking about public education, how do we make our K-12 work, and how do we make our higher ed the best they can be, and all those things, Denver and Colorado, we're solving those problems, and it would be nice to have the rest of the world take notice and say, we can collaborate and get things done too.
Right, right. And unity will certainly be a theme as we approach August. Denise, in working to lure visitors here and getting people to come back to Denver, obviously this is going to give some people a first look at Denver, but in terms of attracting businesses here, what do you see as the outcome there, the impact?
Well, I think it'll be a positive impact, and I think it'll be a particular positive impact for even small businesses. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be lots of opportunities for small businesses, and what I hope will be the outcome of the convention is the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, along with the City and County of Denver and with the convention committee itself. We will showcase Denver in the ways that the mayor just described, willing to take risks, entrepreneurial, diverse, lots of interests, and I think that we can showcase that, and that will attract not only businesses, which ultimately we hope to do that, but I think it'll be a good environment for visitors to just keep coming back to Denver and leaving their money here and helping our businesses that are already here flourish.
All right. Mr. Mayor, any final comments on that?
Well, I think that that notion that we put on a convention at this scale, and this will be the greenest convention in history, right? We're going to have bicycles, 1,000 bicycles everywhere. We're going to have every hotel and restaurant using less energy, less water. That's going to brand the city for decades. It's a place where people that want to have a big convention but not have a big footprint on the environment, this is where you can do it.
Right, right. Well, certainly some fantastic things to come here in Denver. It's fascinating to watch it unfold, and we look forward to that final week in August. Thanks so much for being here.
We're grateful for all the hard work that our loyal team has been doing.
It's a lot of work.
That's wonderful.
Again, thanks so much, Mayor Hickenlooper, for joining us, and Denise Mayas. Join us again next month on Denver 808 as we examine another aspect of the 2008 Democratic National Convention. Thanks for watching. I'm Beverly Weaver for Denver 808.